If you wish to be Stoic, understand first that it is not a performance, not a crafted image for others to admire. It is not a pose struck in stillness or silence to appear wise. It is not a mask of coldness or apathy that hides your true self. It is a daily reckoning with reality, a courageous and consistent agreement to face life exactly as it is and to meet it with unwavering virtue. Not once, not occasionally, but constantly. Not only when it is convenient or simple, but especially when it is harsh, uncomfortable and testing. To walk the path of Stoicism is to walk into the storm with your eyes wide open, to walk through the fire refined, your feet grounded in reason, and your heart tethered to principle. It is not a life of detachment from the world, but a life of engagement without emotional slavery. It is not the denial of emotion, but the mastery over its influence. It is to feel deeply and choose wisely. It is the fire that burns clean, not wild. It is the discipline that sharpens without wounding. It is the wisdom to know what to carry through life's flames, what to release into the wind, and when to do both with precision. The Stoic does not aim for numbness, they aim for clarity. They do not chase applause or comfort. They pursue excellence, not as a performance, but as a state of being. Their calm is not emptiness. Their restraint is not absence. Their poise is not pretense. They seek to embody justice, courage, moderation, and wisdom, not as abstract ideals, but as daily expressions of strength. These are not soft virtues. They are not decorative. They are the backbone of endurance, of leadership, and of deep integrity. To be Stoic is not to shut down, but to open fully to life without being overwhelmed by it. It is to be present without being pulled apart. It is to be disciplined without being rigid. It is to remain rooted when everything else wavers. If you wish to be Stoic, stop asking, "Why is life this way?" Instead, ask the question that returns your agency and sharpens your purpose. What will I do now that it is? This shift in mindset is the threshold of transformation. In the chapters that follow, we will uncover the enduring discipline, moral clarity, and mental strength that define the true Stoic path. These chapters are not just ideas, they are tools. Use them to forge your character, command your responses, and walk with unshakable purpose through the trials of life. Chapter 1. Mastering the Inner Citadel. To be Stoic is to build a fortress within yourself. The Stoics called it the inner citadel, the part of you that cannot be touched by misfortune, insult, or fate. It is your reason, your principles, your character. This is the only place where real safety lives. The world may shake, people may lie, loved ones may leave, your plans may collapse, fortunes may vanish, and hopes may be delayed or destroyed. The narrative you built in your mind may unravel in seconds. And still, amid this endless churn of change, the one thing that cannot be taken from you, unless you hand it over, is your ability to choose your response. That is your constant. That is your unshakable ground. That is your final line of defense. The Stoic returns to this foundation again and again, not because it is easy, but because it is essential. When everything external grows unstable, this inward mastery becomes your anchor. This is the beginning of mastery, not mastery over others, not over the chaos of events, not over the unpredictable turns of life, but mastery over yourself. True Stoicism does not promise power over the external world. It offers something far more enduring, sovereignty over the internal world. It is not about influence over what others think, say, or do. It is about absolute dominion over what you allow to grow inside your own mind. The Stoic does not aim to micromanage the weather, the market, the politics, or the emotions of others. They aim to govern the one province they were truly entrusted with, their own soul. And that control is not established through grand declarations or heroic moments. It is built quietly, decision by decision. It lives in the refusal to react with rage when anger is justified, in the pause before complaint when discomfort arises, in the deliberate choice to interpret hardship not as punishment but as preparation. It is the wisdom to turn a setback into a stage for composure. It is the power to respond with integrity rather than instinct. It is cultivated by choosing principle over impulse, presence over distraction, and composure over chaos. These choices may seem small. They are not. They are the bricks that build your inner fortress. They accumulate into strength that cannot be bought, borrowed, inherited, or faked. This power, the ability to govern your own judgment, is where the Stoic begins. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, it is not the thing itself that disturbs you, but your judgment of it. The storm outside cannot enter your mind unless you leave the door open. There is nothing more liberating than realizing that what you suffer from is not the external blow, but the internal bruise created by how you interpret the blow. Pain is real, yes, but the story you attach to pain is optional. That is where the Stoic draws the line. This is your citadel. This is your center. This is the seat of your freedom and the root of your strength. Guard it, train it, return to it daily. Let it be the ground you stand on when everything else trembles. Let it be your sanctuary and your strategy, your shield and your compass. Chapter 2. Holding the line. When it hurts. Anyone can be calm when the sun is out, when everything aligns, when praise flows, when progress is visible. Composure is effortless. It's easy to appear disciplined when there's no pressure. It's easy to appear wise when no one is testing your values. But the Stoic does not train for peace in peace. The Stoic holds the line in the storm. When you're criticized unjustly, when you're ignored by those you care for, when you're underestimated by those you've supported or betrayed by those you trusted, this is the proving ground. This is when the mask comes off and the truth of who you are is revealed. These are the moments when your philosophy either lives or dies. This is the battlefield where your virtue is tested and where your values must hold the weight of real suffering. Anyone can preach Stoicism when they are rested, praised, and unopposed. But when life applies pressure, when you're emotionally fatigued, physically drained, and morally provoked, then the real work begins. This is where the weak shrink into bitterness. This is where the undisciplined lash out, collapse, or blame. But the Stoic pauses and reflects. They ask, do I remain principled, or do I dissolve into reaction? Do I answer pain with poison, or with patience? Do I match cruelty with cruelty, or do I remain anchored in character? In the face of injustice, does my character bend toward vengeance or remain straight toward virtue? These moments are sacred. They are the forge of who you are. Character is not revealed in ease. It is revealed in heat. The Stoic knows that their identity is not built by their intentions, but by their responses. Not what they say they believe, but what they do when their belief is tested. They know that character is not defined by comfort, but revealed by crisis, and that every trial contains a choice, to regress, to stagnate, or to rise. The Stoic does not ask for life to be easy. They do not wish for safety without sacrifice. They ask for the strength to endure it with nobility. They ask for clarity when confusion abounds. They ask for grace under pressure and patience under trial. They do not demand immunity from suffering. They demand inner power to remain aligned while enduring it. To suffer well, to suffer without losing themselves, is part of their practice. Pain does not define them. Reaction does not control them. When pain comes, they do not inflate it with panic or dramatize it into catastrophe. When insult comes, they do not decorate it with pride or seek validation through retaliation. They feel everything fully, and then they choose. They choose not to be conquered by any of it. There is no greatness without suffering, but the Stoic does not glorify suffering for its own sake. They do not romanticize pain. They see it as training, a test, a furnace, a mirror, a gate, an opportunity to strengthen resolve, to clarify what matters, to grow deeper into wisdom. Pain is not the enemy, it is the teacher, the chisel, the fire in which steel is forged, and the mirror in which weakness is revealed. Suffering exposes your attachments. It shows you where your expectations are unguarded, where your ego still clings, where your peace is conditional, and that exposure is a gift if you're willing to look, if you're willing to learn. To be Stoic is not to suppress pain, but to step through it without losing yourself. Not to pretend it doesn't hurt, but to ensure it does not hijack your reason. Not to walk unscathed, but to walk unshaken. Not to deny the wound, but to deny its rule. Strength is not the absence of pain, it is the refusal to be reshaped by it into something lesser. It is the discipline to experience pain without collapsing, to be wounded and still respond with clarity. It is the refusal to let it harden your heart or blind your judgment. It is the strength to say, "This pain will pass, but who I am will remain." It is the humility to accept the pain and the courage to remain true despite it. It is not comfort that makes you stronger. It is the discipline to keep walking while in discomfort, to take deliberate steps forward even when your soul aches and your body resists. It is the practice of stillness in chaos, of silence in noise, of calm in the middle of disorder. The decision to stay grounded when others flee to fury or despair. It is the ability to stay silent when provoked, to withhold the petty jab, to refuse the angry retort, to keep your word when it would be easier to abandon it, to speak truth when silence would be safer, to maintain your direction when distraction seduces, to remain kind when bitterness tempts, to be generous when resentment knocks, to uphold integrity when betrayal surrounds you. This is power, not the kind that dominates others, but the kind that preserves the soul, that shields your peace without building walls of apathy. It is power that does not shout, but endures. If you wish to be Stoic, do not ask how to avoid pain. That is the question of a life half-lived, a soul that fears its own capacity. Ask how to meet it with dignity. Ask how to embrace it without letting it define you. Ask how to walk through fire and emerge clearer, not charred. Ask how to let it teach you without letting it change you into someone smaller. Ask how to turn the wound into wisdom and the ache into depth. Ask how to become someone who uses pain not as a reason to break, but as a reason to rise higher, walk straighter, love deeper, speak more honestly, and live more wisely. Because in the end, it is not the pain that defines us, but the pattern of strength we build in its presence. Chapter 3. Living by principles, not preferences. The world teaches you to chase what feels good, comfort, pleasure, approval, validation, the applause of others, a sense of being liked, seen, accepted. But the Stoic teaches you to pursue what is good, what is right, what is honorable, what builds your character, not your convenience, what sharpens your soul, not what soothes your ego. Chasing what feels good leads to comfort, but not always growth. It often leads to compromise, complacency, and fragility. Because if you only act based on what feels good, you will crumble when life feels hard. You will abandon the path when the applause stops. But the Stoic knows the road to wisdom is rarely paved with comfort. It is built on consistency, not cravings. There is a profound difference between preference and principle. Preference is easy. It is instinct. It is reaction. It is the quick emotional pull toward what's convenient or pleasurable. But principle requires effort. It demands clarity. It asks for reflection. It insists on loyalty to your higher self. Preference whispers, do what feels right. Principle says, do what is right, even when no one notices, even when no one agrees, even when it costs you everything but your soul. Preference avoids discomfort. Principle often invites it. Preference is reactive. It moves you based on mood. Principle is proactive. It grounds you in values. Preference is about winning the moment. Principle is about winning the long game of who you become. The Stoic understands that every day is a negotiation between the two. Every day, life puts opportunities in front of you to either slip into preference or stand in principle. The more you choose the latter, the more you become someone unshakable. The Stoic wakes each day and renews their loyalty to a code, not a rigid set of laws, but a living compass, a silent creed, a personal constitution written not for performance, but for guidance. Today, I will not lie, even when a lie would protect me. Today, I will not indulge cowardice, even when fear seduces me. Today, I will not let anger lead me, even when injustice invites it. These are not grand declarations meant to impress others. They are quiet, steady alignments that recalibrate the soul. They remind the Stoic, I am not here to be ruled by emotion, approval, or avoidance. I am here to act in alignment with what is true, what is right, what is eternal. Living by principle means saying no when it costs you relationships, promotions, or popularity. It means keeping your word when you are tired, misunderstood, or pressured to break it. It means standing alone when the crowd has lost its way, and doing so with dignity, not resentment. It means choosing what strengthens you, even when it starves your ego. It means doing the right thing, even when it wins you nothing. No applause, no reward, no recognition. Just the silent knowing that you did not betray yourself. Virtue is not born in ease, it is forged in friction, in resistance, in the temptation to bend, and the decision to stay upright. The Stoic doesn't live by what is easiest, they live by what is essential. Epictetus wrote, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Not what you feel like doing, not what you hope will happen, what you have to do. Duty over desire, action over avoidance. That's the life of principle. It's not passive, it's deliberate. It's not a mood, it's a mindset. It's not reactive, it's ritual." The Stoic is not led by emotion, they are led by inner law. You are what you tolerate. You are what you repeat. You are not what you say you value. You are what you defend under pressure. Your life is not a collection of good intentions. It is a collection of lived priorities. You are not your beliefs on paper. You are your behavior in practice. You are not your opinions. You are your decisions. Not what you believe when it's convenient, but what you stand by when it's tested. If you wish to be Stoic, build your life around what you believe in, not what you feel in fleeting moments. Let your principles be the spine of your character. Let them be the guardrails of your action, the rhythm of your day, the code that whispers when life gets loud. Let them be the standard you rise to, not just when it's easy, but precisely when it's hard. Let them be the reason you respect yourself in private and the reason others admire you in silence. Let them be what you carry when all else is stripped away, because when the world changes, your principles are what will anchor you. Chapter 4. Choosing Stillness in a Spinning World. Noise is the modern plague. Every screen, every headline, every scroll demands your attention and drains it. We are surrounded by a constant stream of alerts, opinions, entertainment, and artificial urgency. Most people live in a state of distraction so chronic they forget what silence feels like. But the Stoic does not shun the world. They are not hermits. They are engaged, awake, but they are not ruled by its chaos. Stillness is not the absence of noise. It is the clarity beneath it. Stillness is not about silence alone. It is about discernment. It is a mind that thinks before it speaks, a heart that breathes before it reacts, a soul that listens before it judges. Stillness is not stagnation. It is restraint with intention. It is awareness with depth. It is presence that does not flinch under pressure. The Stoic sees stillness not as retreat, but as readiness, not as withdrawal, but as a return to center. The Stoic trains for stillness, not just in moments of meditation, but in the middle of life. They rise early, before the noise begins. They reflect, even when deadlines call. They walk alone, even when the world demands constant connection. They write down what they fear, not to indulge it, but to tame it. They strip distractions down to the truth. They ask, what is in my control today? What am I carrying that I don't need to? What am I absorbing from the world that doesn't belong to me? What will I do that aligns with who I am becoming? These questions are not lofty, they are practical. Stillness starts in clarity. Clarity begins with inquiry. To be still is not to do nothing. It is to do the right things, for the right reasons, in the right way. Stillness is not laziness, it is precision. It is focused movement. It is action without frenzy. It is control without rigidity. It is the ability to act decisively without rushing and to wait patiently without passivity. It is refusing to be moved by every emotion, every opinion, every current of panic or urgency that sweeps across the world. Stillness is not inaction, it is the discipline of deliberate action. Most people are reactive because they are unanchored. The Stoic knows, if you don't anchor yourself in something solid, you will be swept away by everything shallow. If you do not decide what deserves your focus, the world will decide for you, and it will sell you chaos disguised as importance. Stillness is not built in one moment of silence, but in repeated choices to protect your attention. It is a lifestyle, not an escape. It is the mind returning to principle when distraction calls. It is choosing reflection over reaction, intention over impulse, presence over panic. And in this world of rapid motion, the ability to be still, to think, to breathe, to choose slowly, is a radical act. If you wish to be stoic, you must guard stillness as if it were sacred, because it is. Stillness is where your wisdom grows, your courage takes root, and your vision becomes clear. It is not found in the noise, but beneath it. Return to it, and return often. Chapter 5. Owning your energy like a sacred resource. Energy is not infinite. Every thought, every conversation, every reaction costs you something. Every time you divide your focus, you dilute your power. Attention is not free. Focus is not bottomless. Time may be ticking in the background, but energy is the currency you feel slipping through your fingers each day. Most people spend their energy recklessly, unconsciously, without calculation or intent. They leak their vitality into everything that blinks, buzzes, angers, flatters, or distracts them. They mistake stimulation for purpose, noise for signal, and wonder why they feel empty, scattered, and overwhelmed by nightfall. But the Stoic spends energy wisely, deliberately, like a builder guarding their last bricks, not out of fear, but out of reverence. You do not owe your response to every provocation. You do not owe your attention to every trending topic. You do not owe your time to every invitation or your presence to every request. You do not have to attend every argument you're invited to. If you wish to be stoic, you must become selective. Not selective out of pride, but selective out of preservation. Preservation of your purpose. Preservation of your peace. Preservation of the energy needed to do what truly matters. You are not here to be everywhere. You are here to be present where it counts. The Stoic understands that their energy is a currency, and like all valuable currency, it can be invested, wasted, stolen, or guarded. You would not leave your bank account wide open. Why treat your mental clarity with less care? The Stoic does not pour their vitality into gossip, argument, or petty drama. They do not chase applause or react to every jab. They do not spend hours trying to convince people who do not listen or explaining themselves to those who do not care. They reserve their strength for what builds: clarity, virtue, purpose, truth. They are not stingy with their time, but they are intentional. They do not give away their mental real estate to just anything. Not every conversation deserves depth. Not every situation deserves a response. Not every conflict deserves their fire. This is not selfishness. It is stewardship. It is wisdom. It is spiritual accounting. You cannot live a life of deep meaning if you are drained by shallow concerns. You cannot serve your purpose if you're depleted by distraction. You cannot give your best to your values if you've already spent yourself on ego games and temporary chaos. Energy scattered is potential squandered, but energy guarded is power magnified. When you give less to what doesn't matter, you give more to what does. Ask yourself often, does this build me or drain me? Does this serve who I want to become or distract me from it? Does this challenge make me stronger, or is it just noise disguised as importance? Am I investing in a future I believe in, or am I reacting from a place of fear and fatigue? The Stoic does not fight every battle. They do not chase every noise. They do not answer every call from chaos. They have learned that just because something demands attention doesn't mean it deserves attention. They are not indifferent. They are discerning. They know their strength must be preserved for what is worthy of it. Difficult conversations that demand integrity, goals that require endurance, relationships that deserve presence, and inner work that needs clarity. They are not guided by impulse, but by intentionality. They understand that true discipline is often quiet. It is in the decision not to engage, not to explain, not to react. They do not measure energy by how much they can do, but by how well they can do what matters most, and how aligned they remain while doing it. Your energy is your offering to the world. It is the unseen force behind every word you speak, every choice you make, every emotion you allow to guide you. It's your presence, it's your quality, it's the force behind your values and the soul of your contribution. It is what makes your discipline felt, your wisdom heard, your integrity visible. It's how you show up. It's what you leave behind in every room you enter. It is the energy others remember long after the conversation ends. It's not just how long you live, but how deeply you live within each moment. Energy is how you engage with life, not frantically, but fully, not everywhere, but intentionally. It is what makes your actions meaningful, your vision possible, and your principles powerful. Protect it, direct it, respect it. Your energy is not an endless resource to be drained for the sake of fitting in, proving points, or pleasing everyone. You do not owe the world your exhaustion. You owe it your clarity, your strength, your groundedness. You owe it the best of you, not what is left of you. Do not spend your energy by accident. Spend it with design. Spend it like a craftsman building something that lasts, not a rushed product, but a masterpiece shaped with patience, with precision, and with purpose. Invest in rest, in solitude, in truth. Say no with grace. Withdraw with strength. Preserve your flame. A Stoic knows, the less energy you waste on the meaningless, the more power you bring to the meaningful. And that power, once harnessed, is not only unstoppable, it is transformational. It is the kind of power that changes the atmosphere of a room, the kind that leads without noise, the kind that outlasts the storm. Chapter 6. Training the mind to respond, not react. The greatest power a Stoic possesses is not brute strength, not influence, not wealth, but the ability to pause. That pause is sacred. In that pause lies everything, the moment of decision where you are no longer a slave to your emotions, but a steward of your mind. It is in that space where impulse is transformed into intention, where reaction gives way to reason. Reaction is instinct, response is mastery. One is automatic, unconscious, and unexamined. The other is deliberate, clear, and aligned with principle. In today's world, we are surrounded by pressure to react instantly, to prove, to perform, to post. Comment now, defend now, respond now, agree or disagree immediately, think fast or be forgotten. But the Stoic resists this false urgency. They understand that speed without depth is dangerous, that noise without reflection is chaos. So they slow down, they make space between stimulus and response. They breathe, they create silence between the trigger and their reply. In that space, they regain their sovereignty. They ask, what is the right thing to do here? What would serve virtue, not vanity? Who do I want to be in this moment? To respond is to return to principle. It is to filter every emotion through your values before it becomes a word or an action. It is to take the emotional charge out of the moment and replace it with clarity. It is not suppression, it is elevation. It is holding the line, not with aggression, but with awareness. Not out of fear, but out of fidelity to your character. The Stoic trains this response daily. Through journaling, they dissect their triggers. Through morning reflection, they prepare their mind for the battles of the day. Through evening review, they examine where they upheld their principles and where they surrendered to passion. They ask, where did I act from impulse today? Where did I respond from reason? What needs refinement? This practice does not erase emotion, but it prevents emotion from becoming your master. It allows you to feel deeply without being driven blindly. It creates distance between the fire and the fuse, between the emotion and the explosion. It teaches the muscle memory of restraint. It builds the strength to choose differently, again and again. And with each conscious response, the Stoic deepens their character. The world does not need more noise. It needs more composure. It needs people who can hold steady when the collective impulse is to panic. People who do not react to every provocation, who do not dance to the tempo of outrage, who can stay rooted while others spin. It needs individuals who can take a breath while others yell, who can observe without absorbing, who can stay grounded in the midst of chaos. It needs the rare soul who is not dragged into drama, who walks through fire and carries water, who listens more than they speak, and speaks only when something truly needs to be said. The world craves quiet strength, the kind that doesn't collapse when challenged, the kind that doesn't need to prove itself because it is anchored in something deeper than ego. A Stoic is not louder than the storm. They are stiller. They are not more aggressive than the threat. They are more composed. They understand that emotional contagion is real, that fear and rage spread faster than truth, and so they choose to become filters, not amplifiers. They become examples, not reactors. They become presence, not panic. Their calmness is not denial, it is discipline. Their restraint is not weakness, it is wisdom refined by choice. If you wish to be Stoic, don't just ask what is true, ask what is wise. Ask what response will not only be right in the moment, but still feel right tomorrow. Ask what preserves your peace, protects your principles, and honors your higher self. Ask what response will let you look back on the moment and say, I stood tall there. I chose well. Ask what will age well in your memory, what you'll be able to stand by with your head held high. Ask what turns anger into insight, fear into courage, noise into signal. Ask not, what did they deserve? But who do I want to be? Every time you choose awareness over impulse, you reinforce the person you are becoming. You reclaim ownership of your soul. That is the Stoic path. not the path of cold detachment, but of conscious engagement, not the denial of emotion, but the mastery of its direction. Because the pause is not weakness. It is where wisdom lives. It is where self-respect is built. It is where mastery begins. It is not in the dramatic gesture, but in the moment where you could explode, but don't. Where you could fight, but instead understand. Where you could rush, but choose to wait. That pause is the forge. It is where your character is shaped, hammered, refined, and it is where you become who you were meant to be, not a slave to emotion, but a sovereign of reason, a calm force in a chaotic world, a beacon of composure in a sea of reaction, a quiet but unshakable presence in an age obsessed with being loud. Chapter 7. Letting go of what you cannot hold. Much of what we suffer comes not from reality, but from our refusal to release it. We suffer not only from what happens, but from our attachment to how we hoped it would go, from clinging to outcomes, stories, and expectations we never truly controlled. The Stoic understands that attachment to what is outside of our control is a source of pain. The tighter we grip what was never ours to command, the more fractured we become when it slips away. The Stoic does not try to bend the world to their will. They learn to bend themselves to reality. They align with what is, not what was wished for. To let go is not to stop caring. It is to care wisely. It is to love without possession, to give without expectation, to act without needing applause, to show up fully even when the result is uncertain. The Stoic does not detach from life. They detach from the illusion of control. They love deeply, commit fiercely, and give sincerely. But then they step back and release the outcome. They surrender what is not theirs to carry, and they carry what is, their attitude, their choices, their virtue. Holding on to what is not yours, other people's opinions, outcomes, status, approval, recognition, is a recipe for distress. These things are not stable ground. They shift with the wind, bend under pressure, vanish without notice. You cannot hold the wind. You cannot grasp what was never yours to hold. You cannot force someone to understand you, to praise you, to value you. You cannot make the world bend to your expectations, no matter how noble your efforts. But you can control your focus, your actions, your discipline, your attitude, and your inner state. You can decide what gets to live inside your mind and what does not. That is where the Stoic lives, not in fantasies of what could have been, but in mastery over what is now. The Stoic plants their roots in the soil of what is real, not what is wished for. Letting go is not weakness. It is not resignation. It is not indifference. Letting go is not passive. It is powerful. It is not giving up. It is stepping back with wisdom. It is the act of saying, I will not allow what is outside me to define what is within me. It is radical clarity. It is spiritual strength. It is emotional intelligence refined by hardship. Letting go means recognizing where your freedom begins, at the point where attachment ends. It is the courage to stop rewriting the past and start recentering the present. It is the strength to walk away from what weighs you down, even if part of you still longs for it. It is the grace to release what you thought you needed in order to become who you truly are. To let go is to trust that you are whole even without the things you once wanted. It is to recognize that wholeness comes not from accumulation, but from alignment. It is to remember that your worth is not tied to anything temporary, not relationships, not status, not outcomes. Your dignity is not on lease. Your peace is not for sale. It is to remember that peace is not something found at the end of a perfect plan, but something built moment by moment in how you respond to imperfection. Letting go is not about escape. It is about sovereignty. It is about choosing what owns your mind and what does not. The Stoic understands freedom is not the absence of desire, but the absence of unnecessary attachment. You can have preferences without clinging. You can care deeply without being controlled. You can love without trying to own. And this is the key. True strength is not found in controlling what you cannot control, but in releasing it and redirecting your power inward. If you wish to be stoic, practice release. Release what is decaying. Release what is distracting. Release what no longer serves your higher self. Release what is beyond your grip. Let go of the need to control how others see you. Let go of the timeline in your head. Let go of the fear that letting go means losing. Let go of the belief that peace requires perfection, because in truth, what you release might be the very thing that sets you free. Letting go is not defeat, it is direction. It is turning toward what endures. You will not find emptiness in that space. You will find freedom. You will find peace, not because you have everything you once wanted, but because you have reclaimed everything you truly need: your clarity, your discipline, your serenity. You will find that you have more room to move, more space to breathe, and more energy to live. This is what the Stoic seeks, not perfection, but release; not control, but composure; not ownership of the world, but mastery over the self. Chapter 8. Enduring what must be endured. The Stoic does not seek comfort as their highest good. They do not confuse ease with success or struggle with failure. They do not view hardship as an interruption to life, but as part of life itself. Discomfort is not the enemy. It is the arena in which discipline is forged. It is the furnace where clarity sharpens, where resilience is tempered, where excellence is revealed. The fire that burns you is the same fire that can refine you if you face it with the right mindset. To be stoic is to train the mind to welcome difficulty, not as punishment, but as preparation. They understand that every challenge holds within it an opportunity to grow stronger, to deepen perspective, to reinforce virtue. Every obstacle becomes a lesson, every resistance a training ground. Life does not always hand us pleasant moments, but it always offers the chance to rise through the unpleasant ones. The Stoic doesn't just survive adversity, they mine it for meaning. They walk through pain not to escape it, but to understand who they are inside of it. The Stoic does not pray for lighter burdens, they pray for stronger backs. They do not beg the world to soften, they choose to grow more durable. They do not demand that the storm ends, they resolve to become steadier within it. They do not wait for the environment to be perfect. They train themselves to perform well despite it. They prepare themselves not for ease, but for impact. Through physical hardship, through mental discipline, through emotional honesty, they develop the strength to carry on, to carry weight without bitterness, to carry responsibility without complaint. To endure is not to numb. It is not to pretend it doesn't hurt. It is not to harden the heart and call it strength. It is to feel the full weight of life pressing on your shoulders and still choose to carry it with dignity. It is to bleed and still move forward. It is to acknowledge the pain without giving it authority over your identity. It is not about being unshaken, but about refusing to be unmade. The Stoic knows that the goal is not to avoid the storm, but to walk into it with your eyes open and your principles intact. It is not about smiling through pain, but walking through it without letting it corrupt your integrity. Endurance is not apathy, it is courage stretched over time. It is discipline under duress. It is choosing stillness when chaos begs for your attention. It is patience with a purpose. It is saying, "This is hard, but I am harder. This is painful, but I am present." It is choosing not to collapse when life turns cold, not because you feel nothing, but because you refuse to betray everything you've worked to become. The Stoic endures not because they are indifferent, but because they are anchored to their values, to their virtue, to something deeper than the surface pain. They have trained their roots to grow below the frost. To endure is to live with both eyes open, to suffer without surrender, to struggle without turning sour, to fall but not fall apart. It is knowing that the pain you carry is also shaping you if you let it, if you cooperate with it, if you do not waste it. It is remembering that you are not defined by what you face, but by how you face it. You are not shaped by the weight of the world, but by your ability to carry it well. Every hardship becomes part of your sculpture. Every season of difficulty becomes another layer of your depth. The Stoic sees the pain, not as a scar, but as a signature, a reminder that they stood their ground. If you wish to be Stoic, learn to face what you fear, to endure what must be endured, and to keep walking when the path narrows. Do not flinch. Do not delay. Do not look for shortcuts through suffering. Don't just hold on. Grow stronger while holding on. Don't just survive. Transform through the experience. Let adversity refine you, not reduce you. This is not just tolerance, it is transformation. It is the sacred act of becoming forged rather than fractured. To endure with grace is to prove that your peace does not depend on ease, but on inner strength. It is to show that your spirit is not controlled by outcomes, but by principle. It is to show that your calm is not a gift from the world, but a gift you give to it. To endure well is not just stoicism. It is sovereignty. It is quiet, unshakable self-rule. It is showing up day after day, not because it's easy, but because you've decided that the path of virtue is worth it, no matter the weather. Chapter 9. The Discipline of Perspective. Perspective is not just how you see, it is how you suffer, how you endure, and how you decide. The Stoic understands that life does not happen to you, it happens for the sharpening of your perception. Reality is objective, suffering is interpretive. Two people can face the same moment. One grows stronger, the other collapses. The difference is not circumstance, it is perception. What one person calls a curse, another calls a lesson. What one dreads, another welcomes as their initiation into wisdom. The Stoic trains their mind to see events as they are, not as they fear or wish them to be. This means stripping away exaggeration, ego, and assumption. Is this truly bad, they ask, or does it only feel bad? That question alone has the power to dismantle panic, to disarm resentment, to reframe what seems unbearable into what is merely unfamiliar. They dissect the story behind the emotion, peeling back the narrative to examine the raw facts. They do not assume catastrophe. They test it. They challenge their first thoughts. They create space for second thoughts, wiser, calmer ones. Perspective is the anchor in chaos. It is the way you remind yourself, this too is training. Every insult, every delay, every failure is a weight to be lifted. Each trial is not a curse, it is a classroom. Each inconvenience is not personal, it is preparatory. Life is not happening against you, but for your formation. That is what the Stoic sees. They meet misfortune like a coach, not a tyrant. They see discomfort not as a reason to retreat, but as a call to step forward more deliberately. The lesson is always present, if the mind is prepared to see it. But this vision takes effort. It requires daily reflection. It requires humility. It requires the discipline to interrupt fear with truth, to override ego with wisdom, and to choose interpretation over impulse. It takes practice to reframe a delay as development, to see a betrayal as clarity, to hold a loss as an opening to something deeper. This discipline is not passive, it is proactive. It is choosing your narrative before life writes one for you. It is refusing to be the victim of your own thinking. It is the slow, unglamorous practice of shifting perspective by degrees, day after day, until the mind defaults to clarity instead of catastrophe. The Stoic journals not to record events, but to refine perception. They write not to vent, but to see clearly. They ask better questions. What can this teach me? What is still in my control? What would a wiser version of me do next? They understand that clarity is not a passive gift. It is an earned discipline. A well-trained mind sees the same storm differently. It sees the meaning where others only see the mess. If you wish to be stoic, train your eyes, not just to look, but to truly see. See life as it is, not as your fears paint it or as your desires distort it. See setbacks as setups for strength. See the delays as development in disguise. See failure not as a verdict, but as a lesson plan carefully crafted for your evolution. See each pain not as punishment, but as the process of refinement, as the chiseling of your rough edges into a more precise form. See each difficulty not as a wall, but as a doorway to a higher version of yourself. See the world not through the lens of your wounds, but through the clarity of your values. Refuse to let bitterness color your view. Refuse to let past pain become your permanent perspective. Choose to interpret life not from your scars, but from your standards. Because when your vision is strong, when it is filtered through principle rather than panic, your suffering becomes lighter. Not because the weight vanishes, but because you become capable of lifting it with grace. Perspective doesn't change what happened, but it does change what happens next. It shapes how you carry it. It decides whether you remain stuck or move forward. When perception is clear, adversity becomes fuel, not fear. It becomes direction, not defeat. You begin to see that pain doesn't just break you, it builds you if you let it. Even your confusion takes on meaning. Even your darkness reveals contrast. Perception is your greatest tool. Sharpen it daily. Use it like a compass, a lantern, a mirror. Use it to orient your thoughts, to illuminate your path, to reflect on who you are becoming. Use it, and you can find purpose even in your darkest hour. Sharpen it, and you will see that even your struggle has shape, and even your pain can point you forward. With the right perspective, you realize life has not been happening to you. It has been sculpting you from the inside out. Chapter 10. Living the Stoic Life in Full. To live as a Stoic is not to live with less emotion, it is to live with more intention. It is not to become cold or detached, but to become clear. Clear about what matters. Clear about what is in your control. Clear about who you are and what you stand for. Stoicism is not a rejection of life. It is a full embrace of it, with open eyes, steady hands, and an anchored spirit. This path demands presence. The Stoic does not drift through life reacting, they engage with it deliberately. Each morning is a renewal of purpose. Each challenge is a chance to practice principle. Each interaction is an opportunity to embody virtue, courage, temperance, justice, and wisdom. These are not abstract ideals to admire, but living tools to be used, sharpened, and applied. To live the Stoic life is to carry your philosophy into the grocery store, into traffic, into conflict, into silence. It is to ask at every turn, what would the best version of me do here? Living the Stoic life means refusing to waste time on things that make you weaker. It means detaching from the need for recognition, resisting the urge to explain yourself to those who refuse to listen, and letting go of every shallow expectation placed on you by the culture. It means being more impressed by restraint than display, more concerned with character than charisma, more focused on being good than appearing great. It means honoring your values quietly, even when no one is watching, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's hard. It also means learning how to lose, how to walk away from things with grace, how to accept seasons of confusion without letting them become a crisis, how to adapt without abandoning yourself. The Stoic does not pretend life will always be fair or clear, but they prepare to meet it with steadiness. They do not worship comfort. They do not fear discomfort. They use whatever life gives them as raw material for their own transformation. This is not a part-time philosophy. It is a full-time practice. A way of walking, thinking, responding, choosing. A way of living that demands both tenderness and toughness. It means showing compassion without losing boundaries. It means being gentle with yourself, but never lazy. It means building a foundation so steady that no matter what the world strips away from you, your integrity remains intact. If you wish to be stoic, don't wait for a perfect moment to start. Begin now, with what you have, where you are. Begin with the next breath, the next choice, the next test. Use this moment to practice. Use today to live as if your values mattered more than your mood. Live as if your soul was something worth protecting, because it is, and because no one can protect it but you. You do not have to be flawless to be stoic. You only have to be faithful, faithful to the process, faithful to the practice, faithful to the pursuit of the person you are capable of becoming. Not someday, but now, in small moments, in hard moments, in the unglamorous grind of everyday life. This is the Stoic way, not a life of ease, but a life of depth, a life of discipline, clarity, courage, and peace, a life that is not reactive but responsive, not loud but luminous, not perfect but powerful,